You already know the moment I'm about to describe because it's happened to you more times than you want to admit. It's happening right now, quietly, invisibly, in rooms where your name is spoken with a half smile. You feel it when someone interrupts you mid-sentence and doesn't apologize. You feel it when your message sits unread while others receive instant replies. You feel it when a joke is made at your expense and the room laughs just a second too long. That tightness in your chest, that heat crawling up your neck, that silent calculation where you wonder whether to speak or swallow it. You swallow it, you always do, and every time you do, something inside you dies a little, not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that leaves a residue, a heaviness, a dull awareness that you are being weighed and found light. Disrespect is not loud at first. It doesn't announce itself. It leaks. It seeps into tone, into timing, into who is allowed to finish a thought and who is talked over. It lives in the way people feel comfortable wasting your time, in the way they test your boundaries with small violations that seem too petty to confront. And you tell yourself stories to survive it. You say you're being mature. You say you're choosing peace. You say you don't want conflict. But that's not peace. That's sedation. That's you numbing yourself so you don't have to face the more terrifying possibility that people are responding to exactly what you're broadcasting about your value. Right now, somewhere in your life, there is at least one person who treats you worse than they treat others. They don't fear losing you. They don't adjust their behavior around you. They push and you bend. They take and you rationalize. And the most humiliating part isn't what they do, it's what you don't do. You feel the moment pass where you could have stopped it. You feel the window close. And later, alone, you replay it in your mind with perfect clarity, saying the words you should have said, feeling the spine you should have shown, hating yourself just enough to promise you'll do better next time. But next time comes, and your body freezes again, because your problem isn't that you don't know what disrespect looks like. Your problem is that you've been trained to tolerate it. This is the wound. This is where it starts. Not with power, not with strategy, with humiliation that has nowhere to go, with anger turned inward, with a quiet erosion of self-trust. You begin to doubt your instincts. You second-guess your reactions. You wonder if you're overreacting, even as your nervous system screams that something is wrong. And the world rewards this confusion. People love a person who doubts themselves. They love someone who hesitates. They love someone who absorbs discomfort so others don't have to feel it. Here is the first forbidden truth, and it will not flatter you. Disrespect is not something that happens to you. It is something that is tested. Every social environment, every relationship, every hierarchy runs these tests automatically. They are not personal. They are biological. They are ancient. The question being asked is simple and brutal. How much can I take from you before you resist? And every time you fail to answer that question with action, the test escalates. Not because the other person is evil, but because the system demands resolution. Nature abhors ambiguity. So do human hierarchies. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago, not as a philosopher sitting safely in abstraction, but as a man watching power destroy those who misunderstood it. He saw that respect is never granted out of kindness. It is granted out of consequence. People do not treat you well because you are good. They treat you well because mistreating you is expensive. This is not cynicism. This is mechanics. And if this sentence makes you uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is the sound of an illusion cracking. You have been taught, subtly and relentlessly, that being agreeable is virtue, that being flexible is strength, that absorbing disrespect makes you morally superior. But morality without leverage is decoration. It is a costume worn by prey to feel noble as they are consumed. Nietzsche warned about this sickness of the soul, this inversion where weakness rebrands itself as goodness to avoid the terror of becoming dangerous. Jung saw it in the shadow, the parts of yourself you exile because you were taught they were unacceptable. And Robert Greene has spent his life translating these truths into a language modern minds can understand without immediately rejecting them. Here is the revelation that reframes everything. The people who disrespect you are not responding to your intentions. They are responding to your boundaries. They are not listening to your words. They are listening to your nervous system. They are watching what happens when they cross a line. And what usually happens is nothing. You smile, you deflect, you let it slide. And in that moment, a lesson is learned, not by you, but about you. You may think respect is about being liked. It isn't. Respect is about position. It is about where you sit in the invisible hierarchy that exists in every group, every workplace, every family. And hierarchies are not negotiated through explanations. They are enforced through behavior. This is why explaining yourself makes things worse. Explanation is a plea. It signals that you need to be understood in order to act. Power acts and lets others adjust. Think about the people who are never disrespected, not occasionally, but systematically. Notice how little they explain themselves. Notice how calm they are when challenged. Notice how rarely they rush to smooth things over. There is a density to them, a gravity. When they withdraw attention, it is felt. When they speak, it lands. They are not louder, they are heavier, and weight comes from one thing only: consequence. You were not born without this. You were trained out of it. Every time you were told to be the bigger person while the other person faced no cost. Every time you were praised for patience while your boundaries were ignored. Every time you were taught that anger was dangerous but compliance was safe. Over time, your system learned a simple equation. Resistance equals risk, silence equals survival. And that equation kept you alive socially, but it made you small. The tragedy is that the world does not reward small, it exploits it. Disrespect is a signal that the balance of power has tilted against you, and the longer it goes unaddressed, the more it calcifies. People do not suddenly wake up and decide to treat you better out of guilt or insight. They adjust when the environment changes, when your presence changes the cost-benefit calculation, when ignoring you, interrupting you, or belittling you produces friction instead of convenience. This is why trying to earn respect through more effort fails. You work harder, you give more, you become more available, and respect drops further because availability signals surplus, and surplus is devalued. Scarcity creates gravity, withdrawal creates recalibration. This is not manipulation. This is physics. Right now, as you listen to this, there is a part of you that wants to argue. It wants to say this is too harsh, too cold, too dark. It wants to believe that if you just communicate better, if you just show enough goodwill, things will change. That part of you is understandable. It has kept you safe, but it has also kept you trapped because the world you are navigating is not a therapy room. It is a competitive ecosystem, and ecosystems respond to strength, not sincerity. Here is the knife, pressed gently but firmly against your throat. If you do nothing, nothing will change. The disrespect you tolerate today becomes the baseline tomorrow. The humiliation you swallow teaches others that you are edible. And one day you will look back and realize that the cost was not just moments of discomfort, but years of diminished self-respect, compromised decisions, and a life lived at a fraction of its potential weight. The method you are about to learn is not kind. It is not gentle. It is not for everyone. Most people will never understand it because they are too invested in being liked to risk being respected. But if you stay, if you listen, if you let this cut deeper than your excuses, you will learn how to end disrespect not with arguments, not with anger, but with a precise shift in behavior that makes disrespect unsustainable in your presence. But why? Why does this happen to you? The answer is not flattering, and it will not spare your ego, but it will free you if you let it. This happens to you because your internal signals are misaligned with your external desires. You want respect, but your nervous system is broadcasting appeasement. You want authority, but your behavior communicates permission. Human beings do not consciously calculate these things most of the time. They feel them. They sense them the way animals sense weakness, posture, timing, hesitation, through the micro delays between stimulus and response. Your body speaks before your mouth does. And right now, it is telling the world that you can be pressed. Disrespect begins long before the overt act. It begins in the subtle calibration phase, where others probe the perimeter of your boundaries. A late reply, a sarcastic comment, a small request that costs you more than it should. These are not accidents, they are tests. Not malicious ones usually, but instinctive ones. The human brain is a prediction machine. It is constantly asking, what can I do here? What can I get away with? Where is the edge? When there is no resistance, the edge moves. When there is no cost, behavior escalates. This is not cruelty. This is conditioning. Your conditioning has trained people to see you as flexible matter. You absorb pressure. You deform to fit the container. You recover quickly and ask for nothing in return. That makes you useful. It does not make you respected. Respect is reserved for those who introduce uncertainty, for those whose reactions cannot be predicted or exploited, for those whose withdrawal would create a vacuum. At the neurological level, this is about dominance signaling and threat assessment. The amygdala does not process words the way your conscious mind does. It processes risk. When someone interacts with you, their nervous system is reading yours. Are you tense or grounded? Do you rush or pause? Do you fill silence or allow it to expand? Silence is especially revealing. Those who fear it rush to fill it. Those who command it let it work for them. Silence forces the other person to move, to explain, to adjust. It shifts effort outward instead of inward. You have been doing the opposite. You over-explain. You preemptively justify. You rush to smooth friction before it has a chance to teach the other person anything. This is why confrontation feels dangerous to you. Not because confrontation itself is inherently destructive, but because you have never learned to use it without emotional leakage. When you finally do speak up, it comes out loaded with resentment, with history, with the weight of all the times you said nothing. That explosion confirms the narrative others already have about you, that you are emotional, that you are unstable, that you can be managed. Machiavelli warned that power lost through mercy is rarely regained through pleading. Once you have shown that you will tolerate a violation, reversing that tolerance requires more force than preventing it ever would have. This is why early boundaries are clean and late boundaries are messy. This is why killing disrespect instantly matters. As a dramatic flourish, but as a preventative measure. The first violation sets the tone. The first silence writes the contract. Predator and prey is not a moral judgment. It is a description of energy flow. Predators conserve energy. They act decisively. They do not chase endlessly. They do not explain themselves to the herd. Prey scatters, it reacts. It overextends. It broadcasts fear and availability. When you jump every time someone pushes, when you answer every message immediately, when you tolerate jokes that cut just a little too close, you are not being kind. You are signaling that your time and attention are cheap. Cheap things are handled roughly. Hierarchy emerges whether you want it to or not. Pretending otherwise does not make you virtuous. It makes you blind. In every group, someone sets the pace. Someone defines what is acceptable. Someone absorbs pressure, and someone distributes it. If you do not choose your role consciously, it will be chosen for you. And once chosen, it is reinforced through repetition. This is why changing how people treat you feels so difficult. Why? Oh, you are not fighting one interaction. You are fighting a pattern. Here is where the complicity cuts deepest. You participate in this pattern because it gives you something. It gives you the illusion of safety. It allows you to avoid conflict in the short term. It lets you believe you are above the game. But the game does not stop because you refuse to play. It simply plays you. Jung would say that what you refuse to confront externally appears internally as anxiety, resentment, self-loathing. The shadow you deny does not disappear. It sabotages you from within. Watch what happens inside you when someone disrespects you and you say nothing. Your jaw tightens. Your breathing changes. Your mind spins with delayed comebacks. That energy has nowhere to go. It turns inward. Over time, it erodes your sense of agency. You stop trusting yourself to act when it matters. You begin to see yourself as someone to whom things happen, rather than someone who makes things happen. This is the psychological core of victimization. Not that you are helpless, but that you have learned to hesitate. Others sense this hesitation. They may not articulate it, but they feel it, and they adjust accordingly. They interrupt you because you allow it. They test you because you do not push back. They escalate because there is no feedback loop telling them to stop. In their mind, the absence of resistance is consent. This is not fair, but it is real. You may think that if you just become more confident internally, people will respond differently. Internal work matters, but without external expression, it remains invisible. Confidence that does not change behavior is decoration. Power is behavioral. It is measured in what changes when you enter a room. It is measured in how people adjust when you go silent. It is measured in how quickly violations stop once they are attempted. There is also a darker truth. Some people are looking for someone to dominate, not out of sadism, but out of their own insecurity. They need contrast. They need someone below them to feel above themselves. When you present yourself as endlessly accommodating, you become a convenient mirror for their unresolved issues. They project their aggression onto you because you are safe to project onto. You will not retaliate. You will not withdraw. You will not make them pay. So they continue. This is why kindness without teeth invites cruelty, not always overt, but subtle, chronic, corrosive. And the longer it goes on, the harder it becomes to imagine a different reality. You begin to normalize it. You tell yourself that this is just how people are, that this is just how the world works. But that is not entirely true. The world works differently around different people. The difference is not luck. It is leverage. Leverage does not mean threats. It does not mean aggression. It means having something the other person values and being willing to withhold it. Attention is leverage. Access is leverage. Cooperation is leverage. When these are given freely and unconditionally, they lose their power. When they are calibrated and contingent, they shape behavior. You have been giving leverage away without realizing it. You answer too quickly. You accommodate too much. You explain too often. You stay present when you should withdraw. And each of these behaviors trains others how to treat you. Training is happening all the time. The only question is who is being trained and in which direction. Think of a simple thought experiment. Two people make the same disrespectful comment. To one person, they are immediately met with a pause, a look, a withdrawal of warmth. The moment becomes uncomfortable. The comment is not escalated, but it is not ignored. To the other person, the comment is laughed off, deflected, smoothed over. Which person will receive fewer such comments in the future? The answer is not ideological, it is mechanical. Your fear has been that setting boundaries will make people leave. Sometimes it will. That is not a bug, that is a filter. Those who only stay when they can disrespect you are not allies, they are parasites. Losing them is not loss, it is detox. But you have to be willing to endure the temporary discomfort of separation to gain the long-term stability of respect. The real reason this happens to you is that you have not yet accepted a fundamental shift. That being respected is more important than being liked. That friction is sometimes necessary. That silence can be more violent than words. That withdrawal can speak louder than confrontation. These are not intuitive moves for someone who has built their identity around being reasonable, understanding, easy to work with. Robert Greene would tell you that power flows to those who control the frame. Right now, others are framing you as accommodating, flexible, safe to test. And you are unconsciously reinforcing that frame by trying to change their perception through explanation rather than behavior. Frames do not change through argument. They change through contrast, through surprise, through a sudden absence where presence was expected. This is why the most effective response to disrespect is often not a response at all, but a shift, a recalibration, a removal of energy. When you stop providing what was taken for granted, the system notices, people notice. They may not articulate it, but they feel the loss, and feeling is what drives adjustment. You are not weak because you have tolerated disrespect. You are untrained. You were taught the wrong survival strategy for the environment you are in. That strategy kept you socially safe at one point in your life. It does not serve you now, and clinging to it out of habit will cost you more than changing ever will. This is the dissection, the uncomfortable truth that your suffering has structure, that your pain has pattern, that your humiliation is not random. It follows laws, and laws can be learned, broken, rewritten. So what do? You do not confront disrespect the way you were taught to confront problems. You do not explain, you do not negotiate, you do not seek closure. You act in ways that change the terrain so the behavior cannot survive. This is where most people fail, because they want justice when what they need is leverage. Justice is a story you tell yourself after the fact. Leverage is what prevents the violation in the first place. Machiavelli never wasted time appealing to virtue in others. He understood that men change behavior when the environment changes, not when they are morally persuaded. The first weapon you must understand is silence, not passive silence born of fear, but active silence chosen with intent. Silence is not absence, it is pressure. When you stop responding the way people expect, you create a vacuum. That vacuum pulls, it unsettles, it forces the other person to lean forward, to fill the gap, to reveal themselves. Most people panic in silence because silence removes the feedback they use to regulate their behavior. They cannot tell if they are winning or losing. That uncertainty is power. Imagine someone makes a dismissive remark toward you, something designed to lower your status just enough to feel it, but not enough to justify confrontation. The old you laughs it off, adds a self-deprecating comment, smooths the moment. The new you does nothing. You let the remark hang in the air. You do not smile. You do not react. You continue as if the comment did not deserve acknowledgement. In that moment, the social burden shifts. They feel exposed. They feel the imbalance. They may backtrack. They may over-explain. They may grow defensive. None of that is your concern. The lesson has already been delivered. Disrespect met with silence feels heavier than disrespect met with anger, because anger still engages. Silence withdraws oxygen. This is the fox's move. Subtle, efficient, low energy. The fox does not announce its cunning, it lets others trap themselves. Silence is especially effective early when patterns are still forming. It sets a baseline without escalation. It says without saying that certain behaviors do not earn access to your attention. Attention is currency. Spend it deliberately. The second weapon is strategic withdrawal. This is where most people misunderstand power. They think power is pushing forward, asserting, dominating. Sometimes it is, but often power is stepping back and letting absence do the work. When you reduce availability, when you stop being the most reliable, the most responsive, the most accommodating, you introduce scarcity. Scarcity forces re-evaluation. People only notice what you provided once it is gone. Withdrawal is not sulking, it is not punishment, it is recalibration. You stop initiating, you stop overgiving, you stop filling roles that others have come to expect without reciprocation. You let the imbalance become visible. This is uncomfortable for them and for you. For them, because they lose a convenience. For you, because you are addicted to being needed. Breaking that addiction is part of becoming sovereign. There is a moment during withdrawal where your mind will scream at you to fix things, to reach out, to explain, to restore equilibrium. Do not. That impulse is the old conditioning trying to survive. Let the discomfort teach you. Let the silence stretch. Those who respect you will adjust. Those who exploit you will escalate or disappear. Both outcomes are information. Then there is foe. GGing, the art of being unreadable without being hostile. Fogging is refusing to give emotional hooks. When someone tries to provoke, to test, to diminish, you respond with neutrality. Short answers, no elaboration, no emotional charge. You become boring to antagonize. This frustrates manipulators because manipulation requires reaction. Without reaction, there is nothing to steer. Fogging is not weakness, it is discipline. It requires mastery over your own impulses. You will want to defend yourself. You will want to correct the record. You will want to be understood. Fogging denies all of that. It prioritizes outcome over ego. The emotional experience of fogging is cold at first. It feels unnatural, but over time, it builds a sense of internal solidity. You stop leaking energy. The lion's move is controlled aggression, used sparingly and decisively. This is not rage. Rage is sloppy. Rage exposes insecurity. Controlled aggression is brief, targeted, and proportionate. It is used when silence and withdrawal are insufficient, when a line has been crossed clearly and publicly. In these moments, you respond immediately. Not later, not after thinking about it. Immediately. Controlled aggression sounds like a simple statement delivered without emotion. A boundary stated as fact, not as plea. A correction made without justification. You do not explain why the behavior is unacceptable. You state that it is. The lack of explanation is what gives it weight. Explanation invites debate. Statements end it. The fox and the lion are not opposites. They are complementary. The fox gathers information. The lion enforces boundaries. Knowing when to use which is the art. Use the fox when you want to observe, when the violation is subtle, when escalation would give the other person more attention than they deserve. Use the lion when the violation threatens your position, when it is pub. Lick when allowing it would train others to follow suit. Most people reverse this. They overreact to small slights and underreact to major violations. They pick fights in private and stay silent in public. This is backwards. Power is maintained in public. Corrections must be visible to matter. Silence in public is consent. Aggression in private is relief without consequence. Another weapon is consequence without announcement. You do not warn people what will happen if they cross you. You let it happen. Warnings teach people where the line is without cost. Consequences teach them not to cross it. If someone consistently disrespects your time, you stop prioritizing theirs. If someone undermines you, you remove collaboration. If someone speaks over you, you stop offering input. These are not emotional reactions, they are adjustments. This is where action replaces words. Words are cheap. Action is costly. When your behavior changes, the system adjusts. People notice patterns before they listen to explanations. They may ask what's wrong. You do not unload, you do not confess, you keep it minimal. Ambiguity preserves leverage. Internally, this requires resetting your thermostat. Right now, your baseline for discomfort is too low. You avoid tension. You seek harmony at any cost. Power requires a higher tolerance for discomfort, not suffering, but tension. The tension of letting things be unresolved, the tension of being misunderstood, the tension of not fixing what others broke. Building the inner citadel means decoupling your sense of self from external validation. As long as you need others to see you as good, kind, reasonable, you will be vulnerable to manipulation. You will trade leverage for approval. The citadel is built through repeated acts of self-respect. Each time you hold a boundary, even when it costs you, your nervous system learns a new rule. I can survive. This. I am not annihilated by conflict. Over time, your body stops panicking. Calm replaces appeasement. Shadow work is not about becoming cruel. It is about reclaiming your capacity for cruelty so you can choose not to use it. A harmless person is not good. They are safe because they are weak. A good person is dangerous but disciplined. They could harm, but they don't unless necessary. This distinction changes how people perceive you at a visceral level. They sense the restraint, they sense the potential. That is respect. As you integrate this, something shifts. You stop feeling like you need to win every interaction. You stop chasing closure. You stop trying to control others' perceptions. You focus on controlling your behavior. That control radiates outward. People adjust without you demanding it. Some relationships fall away, others deepen. The ones that remain are cleaner, more honest, more balanced. You will notice that disrespect begins to die quickly around you, not because people have become better, but because it no longer works. The system no longer rewards it. Attempts are met with silence, withdrawal, or consequence. Over time, the attempts stop. This is what killing disrespect instantly really means. Not dramatic confrontations, but immediate recalibration. There is a quiet transformation that happens here. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to feel weight in your presence. You begin to sleep differently. Your thoughts slow down. The constant replay of missed moments fades. You are no longer haunted by what you should have said, because you say what matters through action. But this comes at a cost. The cost is not what you think it is. It is not the loss of people, though some will leave. It is not the tension, though tension will become familiar. The real cost is the death of the version of you that survived by shrinking. That version has route, inez, reflexes, a personality built around being palatable. Killing disrespect requires killing that identity, and identities do not die quietly. They bargain. They whisper that you are becoming cold, arrogant, selfish. They remind you of moments when compliance kept you safe. They show you the faces of people who benefited from your softness and ask if you are ready to disappoint them. This is the price of sovereignty. You cannot be respected by everyone, and you cannot be owned by yourself if you keep outsourcing your worth. Calculate what weakness is already costing you. Count the hours you lose replaying conversations in your head, the sleep fractured by resentment, the money left on the table because you hesitated to negotiate, the opportunities passed because you did not want to make waves. Count the erosion of dignity that accumulates when you let small violations stack until they become a lifestyle. This is not abstract. This is compound interest working against you. Every unchallenged slight compounds into expectation. Every expectation compounds into entitlement. Every entitlement compounds into contempt. Contempt is the final stage. Once someone feels contempt for you, you are no longer a peer. You are an object. Staying small feels cheaper in the moment because the bill is deferred. But deferred costs do not disappear. They mature. They collect penalties. One day you wake up older, tired, vaguely angry, and you cannot locate the source because it is everywhere. This is the future you are buying with silence. The alternative is not loud dominance. It is transcendence. It is stepping outside the board while others scramble on it. It is no longer needing to win because you control whether the game can be played at all. True mastery is not constant assertion. It is indifference calibrated with precision. When you no longer need validation, you stop being predictable. When you stop being predictable, you become difficult to exploit. Picture the outlier who watches without flinching, who speaks rarely and moves decisively, who withdraws without drama and returns without apology. That person is not liked in the way entertainers are liked. They are respected in the way storms are respected. Not because they seek fear, but because they are unmoved by opinion. They are the eye of the storm, calm, centered, destructive only when necessary. People adjust around them instinctively. This is not mysticism. This is the nervous system responding to coherence. You will fail. You will slip. You will overreact one day and underreact the next. You will feel the old pull to explain, to smooth, to fix. Failure here is not regression. It is training. Each mistake teaches your system where the edges are. Each correction strengthens the circuit. The only real failure is abandoning the practice because it makes you uncomfortable. Discomfort is the signal that something real is happening. For the next 7 days, you will live differently, not as an experiment, but as a declaration. On the first day, you will notice where you rush. You will slow down your responses by a breath. Then 2, you will let silence sit until it does its work. On the second day, you will reduce availability. You will not initiate where initiation has been one-sided. You will let others carry weight they have been avoiding. On the third day, you will practice fogging. When provoked, you will give nothing extra. No emotion, no explanation, no fuel. On the fourth day, you will set one clean boundary immediately when it is crossed, stated once, without justification. On the fifth day, you will enforce a consequence quietly by changing your behavior rather than announcing your displeasure. On the sixth day, you will choose one moment to do nothing where you previously would have over-functioned, and you will sit with the anxiety until it passes. On the seventh day, you will review not what others did, but how your body feels now, how your thoughts have slowed, how your spine feels heavier. Do this not to punish others, but to rewire yourself. You are not teaching them a lesson. You are teaching your nervous system that it can hold power without panic. When that lesson lands, respect follows automatically. At the peak of this transformation, something quiet and irreversible happens. You stop asking how to kill disrespect because disrespect stops approaching you, not out of fear, but out of recognition. Predators do not waste energy on targets that do not move like prey. Manipulators seek reactions. When reactions vanish, so do they. If you feel the pull right now, the sense that this knowledge is dangerous because it is true, understand this. Most people will hear these words and return to their old habits within hours. They will intellectualize. They will nod. They will do nothing. Those people will remain exactly where they are. A smaller group will try, fail once, and retreat to comfort. An even smaller group will persist through the awkward phase, through the loneliness, through the moments where power feels like isolation. Those are the ones who cross the threshold. This is the point of no return. You can unhear this, pretend it was just a voice in the dark, go back to smoothing edges and absorbing disrespect like a sponge soaking up poison. Or you can step forward and accept the cost of becoming someone whose presence changes rooms. If you are ready to go deeper, to learn what cannot be spoken publicly without dilution, to refine this art beyond the surface and into the subtleties that separate control from chaos, then you already know what to do. The next level is not advertised, it is entered. The join button is not a subscription, it is a door. Step through it and you will not be entertained, you will be trained. Stay where you are and the world will continue to treat you exactly as it has learned it can. The choice is immediate. Inaction is already a decision.